Well, joining me in the studio to discuss the situation is Rabbi Yisroel Dovid Weiss, who's the spokesperson for the Orthodox Jews United Against Zionism organisation. Rabbi, welcome to the programme. The UN has condemned it, but the settlements continue to be built. Do you think there is a possible peace process at the moment?
With the help of the Almighty, if you look at it in this worldly look, it's hopeless. But we believe that there is one Almighty on the world, and we are certain He will not countenance, He will not let this go on forever, this occupation. The occupation is very clearly against the laws of the Torah, against Judaism, ironically, even though they call themselves the Jewish state, but they simply hijacked the name of our religion. Judaism is a religion to serve God. It's 3,000 years old, while Zionism is a movement, a political movement that started 100-odd years ago, and it's totally antithetical to the religion. We're not allowed to steal, kill, and we're not even allowed to have a Jewish sovereignty, a Jewish state, since the destruction of the temple 2,000 years ago. And that's why you will find around the world, invariably, the very religious communities, including here in London, in Stamford Hills, you won't find an Israeli flag. It's anti-Zionist, because this is all wrong. So it cannot go on. It's something that's criminal, and it will end.
Do you think that although the Israeli government itself is increasingly hardline and determined to go ahead with the settlements, some people would argue that the balance of kind of world opinion, as perhaps exemplified by that latest UN vote, unprecedented for the United States to allow such a vote to go through, but also the spread of the boycott, disinvestment and sanctions campaign, do you think the popular mood internationally is moving away from support for the State of Israel?
I certainly hope so, with God's help, and it seems that the trend, that maybe the alternative media, press TV, and all these things have really added to this, that the world is able to look at it through another prism, because till recently the Zionists enjoyed the microphone to themselves for well over 60 years, that they were able to dupe the world into thinking that this is a religious conflict, Muslims against Jews, which is despicable, because, on the contrary, Jews lived in every Muslim country for hundreds and hundreds of years without any United Nations or human rights groups to protect us. We flourished in these countries. That's why one of the reasons that it hurts us so much, because we are required by God to show gratitude for good done to us, and Muslim countries opened their doors to the Jewish people, embraced us when we were going through the Crusades, Inquisition, World War II, and how dare they, the Zionists, vilify the people of Palestine and say it's because they're against Jews, when in fact it has nothing to do with it. It's just this introduction of a political, selfish movement of having a piece of land that's, as I say, because we're Jewish, we oppose this concept of this sovereignty, this state of Israel, and it oppresses people. We cry with the Palestinian people. This is something really deplorable.
And do you think, I mean, there are people from your particular background, there are secular analysts, there are Muslim analysts, who would say that the expansion of the settlements is partly something to do, which is inherent in the nature of the Israeli state since its foundation. Do you take that view, or do you think there could be an Israeli state that wasn't involved in the process of annexing more land?
Well, the whole beginning of the state, let's not forget, was annexing a piece of land that was totally not theirs. The majority of people living was the Muslims, and then there was the Christian community, and then the Jewish community. And again, I have to stress that the Jewish community opposed the settlement, the concept of the state. The chief rabbi of Palestine, I bring a lot of times my records with us, it's in the United Nations documents. The chief rabbi of Palestine, you can see the picture, we have the picture when they were sitting together with the chief rabbi of Palestine, and this is what, this was in July 16, 1947, and he said, "We furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine," which he pleaded with the United Nations, and they were ignored. So it's not only that annexing the piece of land, but now you're asking if they would accept 67 borders. Really, in truth, I can't really penetrate their minds, the different Zionists and the different, some idealists or what they have. Unfortunately, some of them are brainwashed into believing that it's God's will. They've duped like the religious, believing that it's a religious issue to take land. So who can know? But again, there is, from the religious point of view, of course, we do not accept even 1 centimeter of Jewish sovereignty over any part of that land. And so there's human rights people who, because of human rights, don't want to maybe divide it, searching for a peace. We believe the true peace is with the dismantlement of the state, so we can once again coexist and live in peace. Maybe with education and with the help of Press TV and others, people will realize that it's not necessary. Obviously, not for the religion. The Jewish religion to have this sovereignty, so then we can coexist without it, and then because it's an impediment to peace. It brings bloodshed of Palestinians, of Jews alike. Again, it's not clear. There's different thoughts, different amongst the Zionists. There's many different factions and things. Either way, it's criminal. The way it's standing, and I don't believe if you ask just my humble opinion, there's many Palestinians who simply want to go back to their homes that they've had rightfully, and also in the Torah it says that God says, "Why are you rebelling against me? It will not be successful." They had not 10 years passed without wars. 40 was the 48, 56. Go through 67. So I think it's like what God's saying. You cannot have this peaceful occupation.
Well, let me ask you a little bit about the future. Now, you said that you find it difficult to penetrate the minds of the Zionists. Here's another mind that's a little bit difficult for anybody to penetrate, and that's the mind of the next president of the United States, Donald Trump. He says himself, as we reported in that news bulletin, that he's the most pro-Israel president that there's been, and that's a large claim. How do you see the future of Israel shaping up under a Trump presidency?
Again, with God's help, I'm not a prophet or what, but I can, and we have a rule that in our high holiday prayers, we say that God should put in the hearts of leaders and kings that they should strive for peace. Because sometimes wars started from silly little non-issues and things, and so we can never know how it will be. As a Jew, first of all, I'm required, as every Jew who, whatever country they reside in, they're supposed to show respect for the leaders and pray for the well-being of the country, be loyal citizens. We're always respectful to our leaders there, except, of course, in Israel, which it's a criminal entity. But in the United States, we hope that possibly he's a practical businessman, and could be he's again confusing Israel and Judaism. Hopefully, because he's a practical person, and he dealt, as far as I heard in New York, he treated people in this business, and he didn't look at they were Jewish or Muslim or whatever. He did business with everybody who was practical. So hopefully he'll see the practicality, and that it's like a piece of sand in an eye. That is what Zionism is. It was the foreigner, the foreigner that was introduced into the foreign object into the body. The body rejects it. Jews were living together with Muslims.
Okay, let's just move on a bit, because there have been some protests recently that I know you want to talk about in Jerusalem. So just talk a little about that. What's been going on? Why have they been taking place?
Well, there is a very large Jewish community that is living in Jerusalem. As I've mentioned, there was the Jewish community that resided before the concept of Zionism. So we have, thank God, hundreds of thousands of Jews living both in Jerusalem and around the world, the very religious. And of course, these Jews, being that we're Jewish, we oppose Zionism, and we will never fight for the state of Israel, which is a rebellion against God in every facet, every way. So, but they try to force, they have a draft, and they try to force it. So for many years, every few years, they come up and they try to push the issue to get the religious in. But the religious stands up and demonstrates and fights back. And it's been sleeping for quite a while. They left us alone. They turned a blind eye to the fact we don't serve. But Netanyahu, of course, is off the wall, and he just went and he started trying again to force them into the army. And he just, these last few weeks, they even took some some girls that they tried to force girls to go to the army, and so they didn't want to go, of course, and they were arrested. So we have demonstrations, and it just kept on escalating. Now these last 3 days is an ongoing. Our youth stood on the streets there and blocked the roads, and we're never militant, but we stood there. We're getting brutally beaten, arrested, and many of our colleagues are sitting in prison, and we could see this ongoing. You can see on NKUSA, or you can see these clips. Right now, they arrested these girls, and one fellow stood in front of like a train platform, and the train, because it's Israel, they just went and they hit into. He had a miracle. He was deflected off the side, but the guys are murdered. Many of our rabbis are murdered. That is why you would have many other countries, Jews, and it would be hundreds and hundreds of thousands will be demonstrating. I mean, we do have, thank God, literally tens of thousands demonstrating in the streets of Jerusalem, in New York.
Well, let me just ask you a final question, because we're running a bit short of time, that brings together those last two issues, Donald Trump and Jerusalem. Donald Trump has said that he wants the American embassy to be relocated to Jerusalem. What do you think would be the consequence of him if he did take that decision?
Well, anything that is done, again, we always turn to God and know that we will be, with God's help, victorious at the end. We hope it will happen peacefully and speedily without any more bloodshed. We don't condone bloodshed. We hope that the end of this cancer, this Zionist occupation, will end without further suffering. But the fact is, whatever they do, sometimes it looks hopeless, sometimes it looks little hopeful. So it really doesn't matter. It's just symbolic if he moves it there. We don't want it there, of course, because it's just disgusting. It's a terrible, it's like you're putting salt on the wound of the Palestinian people. We cry, we feel their suffering. They're suffering at so many years. We urge everybody, don't be fearful of the attacks you're anti-Semitic, because it's not anti-Semitic to stand up. But we always urge people that you have to really stand up. We went to Gaza. You have to go to and stand up and have the world hear that they're suffering. They're living in squalor and in refugee camps. So whether he moves it there or not is neither here nor there. Whether it's Netanyahu or Rabin or whoever the leaders are, it's no difference. The concept of the state is criminal. It will end. We have to stand up, and what God wants of us, to pray to Him to bring about an end of it speedily and peacefully, but to stand up and do. Sometimes it looks less hopeless, more, don't worry, keep on doing your thing. It really doesn't matter. But I hope maybe God will put into his mind, President Trump, that he should decide it's practical for business reasons or whatever, even for the Jewish people who realize that they should put a stop to it.
Okay. Rabbi Weiss, thank you very much for coming in and talking to us about that, but I'm afraid it's all we've got time for on this episode of The Report. I want to thank all my guests on today's show, and thank you for taking time to watch.